Hello, everyone. Tonight we are sitting at the edge of the pit, the one that used to be a well, then a grave, and now something in between. You are here. You're crouching on loose gravel that smells of damp salt and old iron. The wind keeps trying to convince you it's only air, but something in it carries a memory. The kind of memory that stares back. You don't remember coming here, but your hands are already dirty and the shovel at your feet is wet. There's a stone ring in front of you, sunken and black, as if the earth burned its lips kissing the hole. You don't want to look down, but you will. You probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You're not alone. The breeze says so. It weaves past your ear as if whispering a name you've never answered to. There's no moon tonight, just that kind of prehistoric darkness where shadows feel older than bones, and even time moves with its head down. The pit waits. You lean over it, and someone breathes back. It doesn't start as a story, it starts as a shape. A memory too blurred to call a dream, too solid to be dismissed. Something wrong about the silhouette. You know what a woman is supposed to look like in death. You've seen burial figurines, right? Elongated limbs, ceremonial posture, sometimes beads curled like tears around the neck. But this one had no face. Not even a worn skull, not even sockets. And she was buried alone. Beneath a house that had no door left, beneath a village that didn't make it into the maps. Some say the house burned centuries ago. Others claim it was swallowed by sandstorms and never rebuilt. One researcher joked that it was so forgotten it remembered itself out of existence. They laughed. You didn't. The first time they unearthed her back in the dry season of 1971, a team of field students thought she was a malformed ancestor. The pelvis suggested a woman, but the head was blank, just smoothed bone like river-worn driftwood. No nose, no jaw, not even the echo of a face. One of them whispered, "She didn't die. She was erased." Nobody laughed at that. The local children refused to come near after dusk. One of them, Amira, maybe 9 years old, claimed she saw the figure walk across her shadow. Not her path. Her shadow. That night, the sight dog howled for 3 hours straight, then refused to bark ever again. Some scholars still argue whether the skull was a natural deformity, some proto-human pathology, or an elaborate ceremonial removal. One paper from 1978 insisted the face had been deliberately polished away, post-mortem perhaps as punishment or ritual. The paper ends with a line scratched in pencil. But how do you erase a person that completely? You're still looking down the pit, aren't you? It hasn't moved. But the dark feels deeper than it should, as if you're not looking at absence but waiting for something to form. She has no face, but she's collecting them. That's what the older locals say softly with tea, as if saying it any louder might count as an invitation. According to a folk tale, you half remember there was once a spirit in the hills that mimicked children's voices to steal warmth from the fire. Not the fire itself, just the memory of it. It would wait until the child left the room, then slip in behind them, wearing nothing. Not even breath. If you turned around too fast, you'd find nothing. If you turned around too slow, it would already be wearing you. You laugh nervously. That counts as joke one. Of course, no one takes that story seriously. Except maybe the night watchman who quit after one shift. And the grandmother who left dates and a mirror at her window every equinox. The mirror always fogged, even when the wind was dry. You're still here. The stone lip of the pit is damp with condensation, though it hasn't rained in weeks. Your flashlight flickers. Then again, you shake it gently, but the beam dances and splits like something's brushing its fingers across the bulb from the inside. The wind returns, but this time it sounds like it's breathing through teeth. The archaeologist who uncovered her, Dr. Kavir, remember his name, refused to name the site. He called it an intrusion, not a dig. His notebooks remain unpublished, but you found excerpts in a scanned thesis draft. She was not buried, she was hidden. We did not find her, we released her. You may be wondering why she had no face, and why your reflection has started to look not quite right. That's joke 2. Maybe, or maybe not. Because last night when you passed by the hallway mirror, your mouth moved before your eyes did. And it smiled just a little too long. You blink. You're back by the pit. You don't remember kneeling. The soil is under your nails. You smell something faint and sharp, like hot copper cooled by ash. A shape has started to form in the fog near the center of the shaft. Not a figure, not yet, but a suggestion. Arms folded over something. A mask. No, not quite. The face is wrong. She doesn't have one yet. But she will. And if you dream of her tonight, you'll wake up with your sheets pressed flat against your nose like linen, trying to remember where your mouth used to be. You smile. That's joke 3. A bird calls out from the thorn tree behind you. 3 short bursts. The kind of sound you'd usually find comforting, like a signal that something still lives. But this time you wonder, what if it's not warning you? What if it's warning her? The flashlight dies, the pit does not. And neither do you, not yet. But your face itches, just a little, like it's being remembered by someone else. The face does not return in your mirror this morning. You lean in, breathe on the glass, half expecting to see your reflection smear into something else, something softer or wrong. But no, there's just fog, and behind it your outline, the kind that only partially belongs to you. One eye seems too far left. Your cheek feels misaligned. You touch your skin just to make sure it's still there, still yours. But here's the thing. You're not entirely sure it was yours to begin with. You brush your teeth slower than usual, tracing the curve of your lips. They still move when you ask them to, but they pause between syllables like they're waiting for instructions from someone who isn't you. That's probably fine. It's early. You haven't had your tea, you're tired. And besides the old house outside the village, the one with the pit beneath the floorboards, it's probably still there. Still quiet. Probably hasn't changed at all overnight. You tell yourself this knowing full well that she rearranges things while you sleep. She doesn't move fast. That's not the kind of spirit she is. No, she rearranges. Doors, windows, the slope of a room, the direction the walls lean, and your memories. The pit is deeper today. That's the first thing you notice when you return. You didn't mean to return, of course. You meant to go to the market, or maybe visit the ruins to photograph some frescoes for your side project on pigment survivability. But somehow your feet walked here, and your hands brought a gift, a cracked mirror you found behind your stove. Not intentionally, of course. You were looking for cinnamon. Now you're here and the pit is breathing. Not audibly, but the air moves differently when you're near. It pulls in slightly when you exhale as though it's copying you. Learning. It doesn't want your lungs. It wants your rhythm. Just a little one. A heartbeat will do. Remember Amira? The child who said the faceless one crossed her shadow. She's older now, much older. Runs a tea house with her daughters. Sells incense with funny names like Ancestor's Pocket and Dust That Listens. Last year, she stopped accepting coins. Only accepts mirrors now. Doesn't care how small. She'll take a shard no bigger than a fingernail and nod solemnly as if you've handed her a truth. No one knows what she does with them. Some say she grinds them down and mixes them into the tea. Others claim she buries them upside down near the walls of the old house to turn her away. There's one theory, fringe obscure, barely cited, that the woman buried beneath the pit wasn't faceless at all. That her skull had been carved smooth on purpose as part of a burial rite no longer understood. The practice, if real, may have originated during the late Neolithic period. Around 6,000 years ago, some human cultures used to remove the skulls of the dead and rebury them in household floors, sometimes replacing them with clay replicas. Faces were reshaped from memory, not anatomy. But what happens when memory fails? Some scholars argue those weren't meant to honor the dead, but to imprison them. A mask over the absence. That's scholarly doubt one. You can write it down if it helps you breathe. You're still staring into the pit. Today it smells different. Less of rust, more of sweetness, a chemical sweetness like wilted flowers pressed in a book too long. Like breath held for centuries. There's something poking through the dirt at the bottom. Not bone this time, it's wood. Polished and rounded. You see the edge of a chair leg. Funny, you didn't think chairs could be buried. But she's collecting shapes now. You saw it last night. The way your door frame bowed slightly to the left like it was tired of being rectangular. The way your pillow indented not where your head had been, but in the vague outline of someone watching you sleep. The faceless do not knock. They hover. They adjust. You don't look back into the mirror anymore. You cover it with a cloth before bed. A pale one, soft as ash, just in case. Joke one for today. You used to worry about wrinkles. Now you worry about impressions left by things with no fingers. She has no voice and yet she hums. You can't hear it unless you're asleep. But when you wake, your ears ring with the memory of a lullaby you've never learned. It sounds like stones sliding into formation, like a face trying to assemble itself in the dark. Last week someone left a mask near the pit. A crude one carved from bark and stained with something black and crumbly. Possibly charcoal, possibly something else. No one claims it, but every morning it's facing a new direction. Always toward the house where someone most recently dreamed of her. She is patient, and patience like mirrors warps with time. That's joke two. You sit on the edge of the pit now. You don't remember deciding to. But the chair you pulled from the soil earlier is warm, as if someone has only just stood up. It groans beneath your weight but doesn't collapse. Something about it feels older than wood, older than sitting. You try to listen for wind, but the world has gone quiet. There's a moth in your coat pocket. It flutters once gently, then stops. You leave it there. Everything belongs to her eventually. You can hear Amira again, her voice, not her words. She's in the distance. The same rhythmic clink of her stirring tea in glass jars. The same hush of feet on dry clay. You know she still carries that shard of obsidian around her neck, tied with red cord. Not to reflect her, she once said. To confuse her. She can't tell which side is the surface. You nodded. You understand now. That's joke three, isn't it? The mirror you hide beneath the cloth. She's not behind it. She's in it. Tomorrow there will be no pit. There will only be the chair, and a soft indentation on your pillow that looks very much like the absence of a face. This morning the pit is gone. Not filled, not covered, just not there. The old house floor is smooth again. Warped planks nailed down in crooked surrender as if some carpenter had blindfolded themselves to erase it, plank by plank. But your feet remember. You walk toward the center and your soles press just a little deeper than they should. The floor gives a fraction too much. The dust sighs softly like something underneath has accepted the trade. You stand where the breath used to rise, and the air holds still. She doesn't need the hole anymore. She has the outline of you. You try not to think about the dreams. You're pretty sure they're dreams. But every morning, your bed smells more like soil. The sheets hang a little heavier like they've absorbed moisture from below. The window lets in a softer light tinged with yellow and rust. The kind of light you only get underground. Your reflection still isn't quite right. You don't look at it directly anymore, you catch it in glances. The corner of a monitor, a glossy kettle, the curved shadow on your phone screen just before it turns off. Last night your reflection blinked before you did. Only once. But it was enough. There's a phenomenon archaeologists sometimes mention in hushed tones, usually over wine or broken sleep, the face in absence. In Neolithic burial cultures, when a body decayed faster than expected, or the skull was missing, sometimes the family would shape a face from memory using river clay and bits of pigment. They'd smooth it over the void and press it into ritual significance, hoping to comfort the dead or themselves. But some masks were too smooth, too blank, almost like they weren't trying to preserve a face, but refuse one. That's the ancient fact for today. Somewhere behind you, the house creaks, not from weight, From thought. It's not a house anymore, is it? It's something wearing a house. Something that learned what corners are, how ceilings work, how to pretend to be empty. You place your hand flat against the wall. The wood is cold. But just beneath that, something pulses. Not warm, not rhythmic, just there. You try to tell yourself this is stress. You haven't been sleeping right. You haven't spoken to anyone but Amira in days, and even she is starting to forget what your voice sounds like. You said hello yesterday, and she winced like it was the wrong pitch. Or like it reminded her of someone else's voice, someone who shouldn't still be making sound. Maybe yours. That's joke one. Maybe. The mirror in your bag has started fogging even when wrapped. You keep checking it out of habit. But something in the mist keeps forming the beginning of a mouth. Not quite a smile. Not quite speech. Just the indentation. A space that wants to be lips. You'll catch it fully someday. But not today. Today is for walking. You step outside. The path to the village has changed again. You notice it slowly. The thorn bushes are in different places. The birds perch in odd patterns. 3 in a row, always facing north. A lizard darts by with something in its mouth, what looks like a bead or a tooth, or a piece of bone carved into a circle. You recognize it. You buried that object 3 days ago beneath the floor of your room, as part of the precaution Amira suggested. Don't keep anything round, she said. Circles are invitations. You'd laughed. That was joke too, but you buried it anyway. Now it's back, and dry. The villagers don't speak of the house anymore. They used to call it the one with no throat. Now they just look past it. Like it isn't there. Or like looking might teach it how to see better. You've become the only one who visits. You've become part of the ritual. Some scholars debate whether certain dwellings in ancient Mesopotamia were designed with deliberate misalignment. Walls built to confuse spirits. Roofs slanted to disorient the return of the dead. Houses that never looked the same inside twice. There's an argument that these were not homes for the living, but traps for the haunted. Scholarly doubt recorded. You return to the house at twilight. Something inside it hums. No source, no instrument. Just the quiet insistence of a note being remembered. Like a song that wants to be reassembled. You step inside. The chair is waiting. Not in the pit, just by the window, now turned away from the light. There's something draped across it. A length of cloth, pale and damp. You know, without touching, that it's your bedsheet. The impression in it is clear now. A head, a chest, arms folded, but no face. You place your hand on the sheet. It feels warm, then suddenly cold, then still. You close your eyes and lean forward slightly listening. She doesn't speak, but you hear the suggestion of words in the wood grain beneath your feet, in the dust that rises each time you shift. You hear stories forming like sediment, one particle at a time. You don't understand the language yet, but you're starting to hear the intonation. It's the shape of longing, the weight of being erased, the hunger of something once seen, then deliberately forgotten. You sit in the chair, not because you meant to, but because there's nowhere else to sit anymore. The house has quietly removed everything else. The table is gone. The rug is dust. The door, when you turn, is missing again. Or maybe it never was a door. The house has been learning from you, watching, adjusting, and now it knows what a person is. Just a little bit. It knows how they sit, how they hesitate, how they look at things just long enough to be recognized. Joke 3, you used to tell people I'm an open book. Now you're not sure who's been reading. You feel her near you. Not beside. Through. As if you are no longer entirely opaque. Your face itches again. That sensation you've come to associate with her presence. But this time it's different. Not an external itch. It's something behind the skin. Something gently pushing outward. She's not stealing your face. She's trying it on. You don't scream. You haven't for days. Not since you realized the sound makes her curious. And not since you saw what your voice looks like in the dust. It had shape once. The last time you said your name aloud in the old house, the dirt floor shimmered. Not with movement, but with structure. like sand over buried slate, revealing a pattern beneath. Your voice left a residue, curved, spindled, strange. A question mark with too many loops. You've stopped saying your name since then, but sometimes, just sometimes, you hear it anyway. Not from the house, not from the villagers, from the mirror. Today you unwrap it again. You tell yourself you shouldn't. That looking only sharpens her. But curiosity, like memory, is its own kind of trap. You hold it in the light by the window. There's no reflections. Not at first. Only a mist coiled tightly within the glass like breath waiting for lungs. But then it clears just slightly and you see not you. Not quite. A shape that could be your face if your mouth didn't sit too low. If your left eye didn't twitch independently of thought. If your expression didn't pause between movements, as if waiting for instruction. You wrap it again. Too late. She's seen how you tilt your head when confused. Another detail to borrow. Long ago, roughly 9,000 years ago near Jericho, archaeologists uncovered skulls filled with plaster. Their faces had been molded over the bone with shells for eyes, not decorative, intentional. The earliest attempt at portraiture, some say. Others believe they weren't meant to resemble the dead, but the watcher. The one who waits beneath. There are still arguments in the journals. Was it veneration or containment? Preservation or impersonation? Some researchers suggest it was both. You think of this now as you find a skull at the base of the stairs. It's not hers. This one is crude. Carved, not grown. The proportions are wrong jaw, two wide cheekbones, soft as candle wax. The eyes are two mirrored stones pressed deep into the sockets. You bend down, touch one. It's warm. She's been practicing. That's your ancient fact. You can feel it through your fingers. Back in the village, Amira doesn't meet your gaze anymore. You ask her if the tea is different today and she only shrugs. Then quietly adds a fifth spoon of sugar, though you didn't ask. It's for the other mouth, she says, and walks away. You don't drink it. You leave the cup untouched. But when you return later, it's empty, and the handle is bent as if a different hand held it too tight. Joke one, you used to worry about getting older. Now you worry about getting blurred. There's something behind your eyes. Now a flicker of shape, or sometimes you blink and see a silhouette just inside the after image. A face trying to stand up from the background. She's not replacing you. She's rehearsing. That night the mirror speaks again, not aloud, through feeling. You hold it, and your fingers bend in a way that isn't natural to you but feels natural to something. A kind of practiced stillness, a learned expression, the way an actor might pose before a scene. She's been learning from you, yes, but she's also remembering herself. And in doing so, she's beginning to surface. There's an old tale, Tibetan maybe or older still, about masks carved from wood so ancient they refused to hold paint. Whatever pigment was applied would fade overnight. The locals said it wasn't because the wood was cursed. It was because it was already painted from within. From memory. From the image of a face so old it bled through the grain. Some of those masks were used in mourning rituals. Others burned immediately after carving. You remember this as the mirror fogs again. This time you don't unwrap it. You place it in the drawer with the sheet you used to sleep under. The one still bearing the head-shaped depression. And the faint stain along the edge, so subtle you'd almost miss it where the mouth should be. Joke too, you thought silence would save you. But silence is how she finds the edges of your shape. It's getting harder to sleep. You wake at odd angles, as if your spine has started mimicking something less human. Something meant to crouch or hover. Last night you woke in a sitting position, hands folded over your chest. Not by choice, just posed. The door was open again, and the mirror was closer. It never moves. It just arrives. You decide to burn it. It's not an act of courage, just process. You gather dry grass, olive twigs, a small pile of brittle thorn. The fire takes slowly, reluctantly. When you press the mirror to the flames, it doesn't crack. It sighs. The smoke curls in a spiral. Upward, familiar. You've seen that shape before. In the pit. In the dust beneath the chair. On the surface of your tea. She leaves spirals where she plans to return. The mirror refuses to blacken. It doesn't melt, doesn't splinter. Instead, it bends just a little. Warps like memory under heat. And when the fire dies, it is gone. Not broken, gone. As if it chose to unmake itself in your hands. Joke 3. You're not sure if you burned the mirror or if the mirror decided to leave. Either way, your reflection is back, but it doesn't smile anymore. Not unless you tell it to. And even then, it waits. The house creaks again just once. It's not a sound anymore. It's a heartbeat. Not hers. Yours, but only because she hasn't taken it yet. Tonight the walls exhale. Not with breath, but with memory. The house remembers something you haven't done yet. That's how it always starts, now reversal. The creak comes before you step. The mirror fogs before you arrive. A corner darkens in anticipation of your glance. She is not following you. She is walking ahead. And you're just catching up to where she already stood. The chair has moved again. Now it's in the hallway. No windows, no light. Just the soft hush of plaster peeling inward like it's ashamed of being touched. You don't sit this time. You've learned that sitting means forgetting. Last time you forgot your middle name. It's gone. Not on paper, not in memory, just erased. Your passport still shows it, but when you read it, it doesn't sound like it belongs to you. You tried saying it aloud last night. Your reflection tilted its head. That's joke 1. The hallway smells like old paper now. Not books older. Papyrus. Dried reeds. Something vegetal and ancient. Your fingers trace the edge of the chair and a splinter catches your nail. But there's no pain. Just the quiet satisfaction of contact. She's getting closer to skin. You back away. Slowly. You want to leave, but the house is no longer symmetrical. The door leads to a room that didn't exist yesterday. It's narrow, low-ceilinged, with soot-darkened beams, and a floor that seems to buckle inward. At the center, a mask. This one's different. It's made of woven hair, human. Long, dark braided tightly in rows and coiled into the hollow of a face. Where the eyes should be bits of mirror, not glass obsidian. You know this because you recognize a shard from the piece you tried to burn. You left it in fire. She found it in reflection. You pick it up. It's warm. It smells faintly of something sweet and rotten, like dried figs left too long in a stone bowl. You hold it up to your face for just a second, and the hallway shortens, literally. The wall pulls inward by at least 2 feet. The door behind you is gone. The ceiling groans and settles closer to your scalp. You crouch lower, the mask. The space stops shifting. She was waiting for that. Some say the earliest masks were not worn but buried, placed over the skulls of the dead to seal them, to prevent a return. But what happens if the mask is dug up? Touched held. Some archaeologists from Çatalhöyük noted that certain masks were buried facing downward. Not upward like grave goods, but face first pressed into earth. One theory claims it was to prevent them from seeing. But not all masks were blind. Some had eye holes carved deliberately thin slits barely enough to see through. Maybe they weren't meant to help the wearer see out. Maybe they were made so something else could look in. That's your real ancient fact. Hold it gently. It doesn't like to be rushed. You move backward through the low room. Each step is soft. Your footfalls are no longer yours. They land just before you decide to step, as if your body's waiting for a cue. The mask pulls at you. You wrap it in cloth. You try not to speak its name, though it doesn't have one yet. In the distance, you hear Amira. Her shop is closed, the shutters drawn, but her voice carries just a few syllables at a time. Not a chant, a rhyme. Something rhythmic, like a counting song for children. Face for a face mask in the ground. Mirror too long comes back around. You want to ask her what it means, but you haven't heard your own voice in days, and hers might just be memory. Joke 2, you once told yourself ghosts weren't real. Now you wonder if that statement only made them lonelier. The pit is back tonight. Of course it is. You find it in the center of your room, just beyond the reach of the lamp. You didn't see it appear, but it's there, deep as ever, rimmed with disturbed ash and a ring of objects you recognize. Your toothbrush, your hairbrush, the cup from Amira's shop, a single sock. All things that touched your face. The message is clear. You kneel at the edge. The mirror you thought was gone. It's waiting at the bottom. Whole. Shining. Tilted just enough so that you can see yourself, but only from the nose up. The rest is swallowed by soil. She's letting you keep your eyes. For now, you do not climb in, but you reach forward. And the moment your fingers hover over the pit, the soil shifts. It doesn't open exactly. It reshapes, like clay mechanizing the hand that molded it. And somewhere below you feel a second pair of fingers touch yours. Not grip, not claw. Memorize. A soft tracing. Like someone sculpting your touch from underneath. You jolt back. You run. You don't remember running. But now you're outside kneeling in the sand. The night is loud. Insects hiss like static. A dog barks once. Then again. A shadow moves in the window of the house behind you. It isn't shaped like you, but it's standing where you just were. And the mask is gone from your hands. Joke 3, you thought you could leave without her noticing. But she's not watching you. She's watching with you. And now she knows how. There is no sunrise today. There is only light that forgets where it's coming from. It leaks sideways across the village roofs, pale and watery, like a memory trying to brighten but failing to name what it was supposed to illuminate. Shadows form in the wrong places. The sun rises, yes, but not for you. Not anymore. You stay outside until your knees go numb. Until even the sand starts to shift beneath you, as if embarrassed by how long you've lingered. But you don't go back in the house, not yet. Not while the window still reflects a shape with your height, your stillness, but none of your hesitation. Inside, she waits, or rather she tries, because something's wrong with the way she moves now, too smooth, too certain, like she's confident in a way you never were. That's how you know she's wearing the face wrong. She hasn't figured out how to frown in silence, how to breathe unevenly when no one's watching, how to twitch the corner of the eye in that tiny, reluctant way when you're remembering a mistake. She's still learning how to be uncertain. That's joke 1. You walk to Amira's tea house before opening hours. She's already waiting. The shutters are closed, but she opens them halfway when she hears your footsteps. Her eyes are wide and strange, full of kindness, yes, but also the kind of sadness that means she's already said goodbye. Do you want the mask? She asks. You don't answer. She places it gently in your hands anyway. It's not the same as before. This one is smaller. Child-sized. The surface is carved from driftwood, smooth from salt and time. The mouth is open, not a scream, just unfinished. Like someone stopped carving mid-sentence. You should leave it at the threshold, she says. Not in the house, not on you. Just between. She likes the border best. You nod, though you don't entirely understand. Some say Amira whispers, we made masks before we made faces. That's your ancient fact. Early Paleolithic tribes may have used bark masks in ritual long before realistic human representation appeared in cave art. We shaped symbols before anatomy. We danced as shadows before we painted skin. But she, whoever she was, never got her mask. Only the burial, only the pit, only the forgetting. You ask Amira if she ever saw the face. The first one she says, or the one she borrowed. You don't clarify. She doesn't either. As you leave, she calls out, if she asks for her name, don't give her yours. You carry the child mask back to the house. It's heavier than it should be. Not physically, emotionally. It feels like holding a silence that doesn't want to stay quiet. Like balancing a regret with sharp edges. Like being watched by a memory that hasn't happened yet. You stop at the door. You place the mask at the threshold just as Amira said. You knock. Not because you expect her to answer, but because the house should know you're still polite. That's joke 2. The door opens on its own. The floorboards sigh beneath your weight. Inside, the house has shifted again. It's taller now. Less of a house, more of a corridor. The walls pulse gently like lungs trying not to disturb a dream. And at the far end on the farthest wall hangs a mirror, full length, ancient, framed in bone, not human, not animal, something in between. You've never seen this mirror before, but it recognizes you. Your reflection is waiting, and this time it waves. Your hand stays still. The glass hand rises, stays raised, not beckoning, not mocking, just patient. It waits for your shape to catch up with its decisions. You walk forward. The reflection doesn't quite match your gait. It steps a half beat early. Predicting, guiding, hoping. When you're close enough to touch the frame, it leans. It leans. Not you. Your feet haven't moved. Your spine hasn't bent. But in the glass, your reflection bows slightly. And then smiles. That's not your smile. That's hers. Behind the glass, a door opens. Inside the reflection, you can't see what's beyond it. Just a color you can't name. A texture that reminds you of pulse, of sleep, of soil forgetting how to be firm. You reach out. The mirror is cold, then warm, then absent. Your fingers pass through, and then so do you. You wake, not in your bed, not in the house, but in a field, flat, empty, dusty, but not dry. A single spiral is etched in the ground around you, carved deep, not recent, ancient, wide enough for one body to sleep inside or disappear inside. You stand, you turn. There is no village, no house, no Amira, only a mask half buried in the soil behind you. It looks like the one you left at the door, but smaller, worn, and smiling. You reach down to pick it up and your hand hesitates, because for a split second, it doesn't look like your hand anymore. It looks like one that never finished forming. The fingers blur slightly at the knuckles. The nails are too smooth. The shadow it casts is missing a thumb. Joke 3, you were never quite yourself. You were always just a face waiting to be remembered. And now, she has. You are not lost. You are misplaced. That's what the land tells you as you walk across it. The whisper of gravel underfoot, the murmuring hush of dust shifting behind you without wind. It feels like the world is trying to remember where it put you, as if you were once placed carefully on a shelf of time and then forgotten. Misfiled. Not vanished. Just moved. The spiral you woke in is still visible behind you, but no matter how far you walk, it remains the same size. You stop testing the distance after a while. You begin to understand what the spiral means, not a trap, not a curse, but a memory loop. Something too important to forget, too dangerous to hold. Something that keeps returning until it is finished. In the crook of your arm, you carry the mask. You try not to look at it, but your eyes stray. It has changed again. Now there are faint cracks at the temple, as if it was once worn too tightly by someone who didn't quite fit. The kind of cracking that happens not from time, but from resistance. You understand that now. Resistance is what she learned from you. Not language, not shape, but hesitation. She wore your face and struggled. She mirrored your silence and wavered. And now she lingers. You arrive at a structure, not quite a building, more of an outline. 4 standing stones, barely knee-high, surrounding a depression in the earth. There is no roof, but the shadow falls across it as if there was. You've read about these. Some Neolithic cultures created ceremonial hollows, ritual zones that marked places between home and wilderness, between the living and the soil, between breath and forgetting. That's your ancient fact. One such site found near the Sea of Galilee held only a single item, a mask carved from limestone. Not worn, not buried with a body, just placed facing upward as if awaiting someone who had not yet been born. Your mask begins to hum, softly. Like wind through reeds, like breath through teeth that have not yet remembered how to close. You set it down, you kneel beside it, and from the dirt something rises. Not fast, not dramatic, just surfacing. The mirror, the one you thought had been burned, then buried, then seen through. It stands now on its own, framed in silence. Its surface flickers slightly like water remembering fire. This time there's no reflection, only mist, only breath, only the shape of a question. And she steps forward, not from behind the glass, from within you. You do not feel pain, only alignment. as if everything misplaced is finding its shelf again. She does not take your face. She releases hers. It is unfinished, soft, young, old. It changes as you look, flickering between versions, as if searching for a story that hasn't been written. It might be your face, Aning, or the face of someone you failed to remember, or the face of a person you haven't become yet. She looks at you through the mask, not wearing it behind it. The mask now resting in the earth is no longer solid. It has begun to dissolve into dust one breath at a time, and the spiral beneath your feet begins to echo. Not with sound, with names. Names you do not know. Names you forgot. Names you almost were. They rise like steam from the soil. Names once whispered into darkened doorways. Names sung during birth and lost during sleep. You recognize none of them, but you weep anyway, because one of them fits. Just not yet. That's joke one. You don't need to remember who you are. She already does. She holds out her hand. It's yours, and not. The same two long fingers, the smooth nails, the thumb that's just a little too far from center. You take it, and for a moment you are both walking toward the mirror. Together, not to step through, but to be reflected properly. She has waited so long, and now she has a face, not yours. Hers. At last. The village still stands. Sort of. People pass by the house now without flinching. The pit is gone again. The spiral erased. Amira serves tea with more sugar than ever. When someone asks what the mask in her shop window means, she just smiles. It's for the ones who don't forget, she says. Even if they never remembered. You are not seen there anymore. But sometimes in the market window panes, in the gloss of teacups, in the shallow shimmer of a still puddle, a face appears. Only briefly. Only if you're not looking directly. And it smiles. Not mockingly, just gently. As if to say, I'm still learning. That's joke two. She never needed a body. She needed permission. And you were kind enough to hesitate. You are soil now. Or story. Or both. You breathe through stone the way moss does slowly, with patience through memory instead of lungs. The mirror is gone, the mask has rotted, but the outline of you remains like chalk on a wall where firelight once danced. Sometimes a child draws a spiral without knowing why. Sometimes a sleeper feels their own face pressed too closely by the pillow and dreams of a mirror that fogs from the inside. Sometimes a house stands in a place no maps recall and creaks softly when no one is near. And sometimes a forgotten name climbs out of the dirt, not to be spoken, just to be worn. You are not trapped. You are practiced, and she wears you very, very gently.